Let's pivot, though, back to the Commanders because there is some news on Deebo Samuel. This is from Jordan Schultz, so I guess was not picking a fight at the
Fully
Starbucks
caffeinated,
today.
yes, when he got this
Yes,
report.
he had not needed to go get some coffee and yell at Ian Rappaport, but he does have this nugget for us. He reports via his sources, the Commanders and the Texans both have significant interest in trading for Deebo Samuel. He says talks are progressing with San Francisco by those teams in recent days. Other teams include the Steelers and the Broncos, who have checked in, but Houston and Washington are believed to be the most aggressive. I totally believe this for two reasons. One, I think Washington wants a wide receiver too opposite McLaurin, and they'd probably prefer to go the veteran route than a kid that they're trying to develop while they also have youth that they're trying to figure out with Ben Sinnott at the tight end position and a project prospect and Luke McCaffrey, who they're going to try to get some run for this year. Two, Deebo Samuel and Adam Peters have a connection. Peters was there when they drafted and developed Deebo. He knows him very well. So assuming they have a good working relationship, and I have no reason to believe that they don't, then that familiarity should make this a easier transaction. So when I hear Washington's in on Deebo, not only does it not surprise me, but I go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it fits, right? For a myriad reasons. You touched on some of them. I would also add this isn't the superstar wide receiver one that's going to command $35 million in the open market. It's not replacing Terry McLaurin with the Justin Jefferson or superseding him with a Jamar Chase. This is a clear sort of, I don't want to say a tick below, but a totally different kind of player. Right? There's very little overlap in terms of their skill sets. Yes, they can both catch and run, make plays after the catch, but this is I'm lining him up in 15 different places. It demands defense's attention. The instant you don't pay attention to him, he takes that bubble screen, that tunnel, that little hitch route, or catches a pop pass or something like that, and is now breaking tackles and he's going. The easy factor that he provides, I think, is essential for this offense going forward. I don't think you can rely simply on Kingsbury being a genius and out-scheming people, not with better opponents coming, not with enough time for the league to have studied and figured things out. You can't just get away with De'Ami Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus, Luke McCaffrey, whatever he turns into. This is a perfect fit to me. Now, contract-wise, what kind of shape is he going to be in? Injury-wise, there's a lot of things you got to be concerned about. And Peters has the inside track there in terms of knowing the guy and being able to see or predict accurately which version of this guy's going to show up. The dude that's a threat all the time, or the dude that, according to some reports, wasn't in the best of shape last year and was a little bit disgruntled. Who knows how it's going to go? But again, I would trust Peters' evaluation with the background that he's got.
So I think my interest in Deebo is probably more than the average person's, if I had to guess, based on the fan base. And we can open up the phones on Deebo Samuel at 800-636-1067 for the MGM National Harbor listener lines. You guys can hit up and discuss Deebo with us. But I think he is kind of exactly what they need if he's healthy. I have concerns like everybody else. Number one, he never is 100%. When the season starts, he's a battering ram. He's super physical. He plays a really violent brand of ball. He's never run around, or kind of avoided anybody. Like, he is just a wrecking ball, cage fighter mentality wideout. He's got some Pierre Garçon in that way. And he's a big target. He's 6 foot and 220 pounds almost. And because of that, he takes huge shots. So from the beginning of the season, you're just not going to get him at 100%. But look at how valuable he was for the best team in the NFC for years. What are you trying to be? I mean, you just played in an NFC title game. And what was I'm not going to call it a fluky run, but it was an unlikely run. And you're probably not authentically a perennial NFC power yet, right? But he's coming from that team in San Francisco. Do I think he'll ever have 75 catches and 1,400 yards again like he did in 2021?
I don't know.
No, he's not going to be the first-team All-Pro wide receiver. That was kind of a one-off. But could he be a 60 to 70 catch, 850 to 1,000-yard wide receiver? I think he could be a couple times. And that's not to talk about what he gives you running the football. Cliff Kingsbury would be interested.
Yep.
Because he's just one of those wild cards, as you referenced, that an OC is going to salivate about based on multiplicity and versatility and the differential options that he gives you to just move them all over the place. So I'm sure Kingsbury would be in. I'd have a hard time believing Jaden Daniels at the players, that's like the real recognized real thing. Players like dudes who have been stars.
Yeah.
I would think he'd be on this. He's just had such a good career. The idea of, well, he's going to be 30 years old in January, so you're getting his age 29 season, and the injuries, that's not something like players worry as much about. But while I didn't necessarily want to trade for him, I was hoping he got cut. If it takes trading for him, I could be really interested as long as you don't have to give him a juicy extension. That's my big question is what kind of payment has to come? There's only 1 year left on his deal. The cap number's under 17 million. That's awesome. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But if I'm giving up a pick or two, and if it's two, it's probably later round picks, whatever. But now I got to pay him too. Like, what's that look like?
That's a great question. And that's the part that I don't know. Because I think part of this is I'm sure Deebo wants a new deal, and San Francisco's going, it probably doesn't make sense for us as a guy with your injury track record, given what happened this last year, given our reinforcements coming, whether it's Pearsall or we might have to not be able to pay a huge another allocation to the receiver room. You may want close to the top of the market money. So in other words, if you got to trade, I'm making this up, a fifth rounder for him, knowing that you're going to have to extend him to a mid-20s next year and the year after with the injury risk, that becomes a little bit more scary to me. Now, I'm in a position here with Washington where I'm going, I may have to pay a premium because this is not a great receiver class. This is not a great free agent receiver class, especially if, Higgins stays put with the franchise tag and, a couple other guys don't really shake out, that I may have to do this just sort of given – I'd call it not the most sound decision, but sort of given where I am, I've got to have a talent upgrade in a few different spots, even if I've got to hold my nose and pay a little bit more than I want to for it. So I wonder where the walkaway point is for them and really for me. I don't have a great answer to that in terms of where I go, you know what, that's too rich. I can't sign you to that extension.
Yeah, I wouldn't have much interest in giving him a whole lot more than Terry McLaurin makes in that $23-24 million a year range, right? I could probably be talked into low 20s per year. But if you're starting to say he needs to make 24 million, 25 million a year, that's where I'm out as he hits 30 years old. By the way, do you know what Brandon Ayuk's cap number is going to be in 27 and 28 with his new extension?
Not off the top of my head, no.
So that deal's super backloaded. He has an $11 million cap hit this year and a $16 million cap hit next year. Then he is owed cap hits of $43 and $44 million in 2027 and 2028.
Wow. Kind of clearly a window is right now sort of move, right? Where we're going to have to pay the piper on the back end.
But as they get ready to play Purdy, Purdy's going to get, what are they paying him? Maybe 62, 64 million a year
Upper
or something.
50, 60,
I mean, there's
like
going to be cap numbers in there down the road of 70 million plus, right? Before you start reworking his deal, renegotiating and pushing back money in void years. They just cannot pay Deebo Samuel. Even if they wanted to, the moment they paid Ayuk that deal, it was over with Deebo, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Because you can't have a cap number of 40+ million for Ayuk and then have Deebo making at that time a cap number up around 30 million with a quarterback who makes 60+.
Yeah, and then drafting the rookie receiver out of Florida, Pearsall, it just the writing was on
the
wall.
But he would still be on a rookie contract. But I'm just
saying.
That's
what I mean, saying like I'm not paying Deebo. I got his replacement ready.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I just mean financially the math doesn't math.
Totally,
so
100%.
A lot of people are saying them moving on is indicative of he's definitely done. I just disagree with that. Same with the Cooper Kupp thing. I think this is a odd man out situation, and maybe it is also a little bit of like they've worn out their relationship is they've fallen out of love. Like Deebo's trying to fight kickers, and we've seen him in the documentaries. He can be very he's a loud guy on the sideline. He's fairly volatile. I think he's a good teammate from what I could tell. It seems like he's well liked in the locker room, but I do think he's excitable and super passionate. That's not a bad thing, but maybe after a bunch of years of dealing with it, you're a little less inclined to sign up for more.
I think it's all part of it, right? I mean, the production has gone down. Now, some of that is, when you look at his healthy games, he and T. Higgins both have this sort of same thing where there'll be a game where they're listed or they're active and it's like a one catch or a one target and he's a complete non-factor in it or like a zero across the board. And you look at some of the overall stats and you go, what the hell's going on? But then there are those games where he's featured, he's active, he's fully with it. And if you follow it week to week, I got a good buddy who's a 49ers fan who was saying like when he's when he doesn't have any kind of hamstring, and that's a bad use of term. When he doesn't have any kind of like nagging thing, the guy's still explosive and awesome. You'll see that 6 catch for 80 yards, 2 carries for 25 yards. He'll throw a block downfield that springs a running back, and he's just incredible. And then there's when he's nursing something, it's 1 target for 0. He's just kind of jogging out there as a decoy. Like, that would frustrate the hell out of me. Like, the thing that I value the most in sports is reliability. I just got to know, what am I getting? I can deal with whatever it is. I just need to know. Counting on you and not having you deliver is kryptonite. It's backbreaking. So that would be the thing to me. They'd have to be super confident in their medical eval. They'd have to have a great plan for him to sort of maintain his health, right? Maybe that means we don't give him any carries. Maybe that means he doesn't go between I'm just making this up. Maybe he doesn't go between the tackles at all, simply because too much wear and tear. We think that's the way to do it, or we have to limit some of his touches or snaps. Who knows what it is? But again, the appeal is obvious.
Well,
right? It's that playmaker gene.
The metrics from last year on Deebo in terms of separation scores and running away from DBs are not good.
Not kind, no.
He was a plotter, basically, as kind of defined by did you get open or not. Against man coverage, well below average separation score. Even against zone, well below average. So he's kind of comparable to, if you're looking at a plotted chart, guys like Kayshon Boutte from the Patriots, Jonathan Mingo, who the Panthers cut, who ended up in Dallas, Quentin Johnson, who's like a red zone threat for the Chargers, former first-round pick, a little bit of a bust, but doesn't really get open. That's the company he's in. The elite guys in terms of separating against man and zone are Tank Dell and Romeo Dobbs and Jamison Williams and Rashad Bateman and Nico Collins and great scores for Dontavian Wicks, actually, from the Packers, although he drops 1 million passes.
He hates catching the ball so much. Hates it.
It's unbelievable. But Deebo last year, it wasn't pretty in terms of minimum of 150 zone and 70 man routes. He was one of the lower graded receivers in the league. So,
and is it plotting because he's lost a step? Is it because he was out of shape? Is it because he had nagging injuries? What caused what?
Sure.
I mean, again, that's maybe the answer is yes. That's the kind of thing you have to determine.